Outside the ABC TV studios in Manhattan, it is cold.
You'll hear his side of this outrageous story on Monday at 8, 7 Central.
Inside, Barbara Walters has finished taping her segments in 2020 and records promotion copy that's too long.
Barbara, give me the last line again. Just say you'll hear, just stop at the end of this outrageous story.
You'll hear his side of this outrageous story.
Thank you.
She's back from Los Angeles after finishing her Academy Award special.
Afternoon, Miss Walters. I'm Monica Kaufman from Atlanta.
And she is feeling uncharacteristically, she says, run down.
Monica, I'm sorry. I have a bad cold. I have been traveling too much and working too much, and I think it finally got to me, so I'm going to sound...
Uh-oh, I thought to myself, she's really telling me she's sick, and she's going to have to cut the interview short. Now, I'm nervous because Barbara Walters is an icon in my business, and I want to make a good professional impression. But at the same time, I've been trying to get her to sit down with me for years. I can't leave without this interview.
But interviews have a life and rhythm of their own.
Open up the mics, please.
I second-guess myself all the time.
A third of the way into the interview, I threw away my questions and relaxed.
I'll be more comfortable.
Good.
And about 10 minutes later, I noticed Ms. Walters seemed to forget about her cold.
Tonight, for the first time, she has chosen to tell her story.
We started with what then was her hottest story.
You lifted the back of your jacket.
The famed Monica Lewinsky interview was barely a week old.
Where did you get the nerve? I mean, who does that?
Almost half of American television viewers watched the 2-hour primetime edition of 2020.
Did you ever say to yourself, I'm doing something wrong?
Broadcast at the end of an important rating period, the special generated the kind of publicity and revenue ABC executives and their affiliates pray for. Once again, Barbara Walters proved she could do what no other television news person could.
Why you?
I don't know why me. I guess because 2020 is a program that has integrity and dignity. I hope that after all this time, I have a reputation for being fair, and I think that she felt that if she did do it with me, that she would have a chance to tell her story. I never know exactly why, and not everybody says yes.
If they're going to talk at all, they're probably going to talk to Barbara Walters.
Is it true that we are the first Americans to cross the Bay of Pigs in 16 years?
As I remember, it's the first time.
Early interview specials often included prominent politicians, but over the years she realized viewers wanted something else.
The ratings were great until the vice president came on, and then, well, they plunged. It reminds me of those polls when people are asked what music they like to listen to. Most people say, classical. But what sells out is rock and roll.
What are you doing here? No one told me Barbara Walters was coming to my house.
She knows what her audience wants, and celebrities know they've made it when they've talked with Barbara.
1, 2, back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Or danced with Barbara. Or traveled with Barbara. Sang for Barbara.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Had Barbara sing to them. Or opened up to Barbara.
You know, Dad never talked much about things like this. So all I could do was say, Dad, did you ever dry up? And he said, no.
What's your strength as an interviewer?
I listen. I can throw away all of my questions, which have taken me a long time to write, because I do a lot of homework. And I very often go around the office and say, okay, if you were interviewing this Monica, you thinking of changing your name, by the way?
Not at all.
I have an assistant whose name is Monica. She's insisting that I call her Marie. Anyway, I will walk around and say, well, if you were interviewing so-and-so, what would you ask or what would you ask? Because people are very smart, and they really do know the questions that pop into their minds.
Now, when you look back at your interviews, and I'm assuming you review them, do you look at them again?
No, try not to.
Why not?
Oh, I hate to watch myself. I hate my voice. I see also I'm so involved in the editing, and I love the editing. I would like to go back and look at the Monica interview, because every time I saw it, really, I was seeing it with the other producers. What can we change? What can we do? Is it too long, too short? And now I'd like to just sort of sit back and look at it and sort of see what I did. My fear is that I want to change it. Oh, why did I ask that? Yeah. Don't you go through that?
I second guess myself all the time, but I am going to take your advice on something. Stick that over
Okay.
there, and then I'll be more
Okay,
comfortable.
good.
You are a mix. You are a reporter, but you are also a celebrity. How do you decide when to turn off the news meter?
If I am at a private dinner and I am with people who are in the news, or even with my friends who are not in the news, whatever is said at that dinner is private. I have heard a lot of scoops, and I have rested with the decision as to whether or not, why can't I put this on the air? But then I know that nobody will ever talk to me again in any kind of social situation.
You also are sometimes teased, made fun of, and I think immediately of Saturday Night Live in the beginning, Baba Wawa.
I'm Barbara Wawa, and tonight we'll be talking to an actual living legend.
When it first happened, I didn't like it. I mean, I knew I didn't pronounce my R's. I pronounce them much better now, but still. And it bothered me. My daughter, when it happened, was a very little girl, and I walked in, and she was watching Saturday Night Live, staying up much too late. And I didn't like it. And she said, "Oh, Mommy, it's funny. It's funny."
Mawina, what is it like to be a living legend?
And I thought, she's right, and I've got to get I've got to get a hold of myself. And then I met Gilda Radner, and she was so adorable. It really was a compliment. But now I think it doesn't bother me. I know that people are not, they're trying to be funny and not cruel, and if it turns out to be cruel, I'm a big girl. You know, I can take it now.
You seem like you're sometimes sensitive.
Aren't we all? I mean, the biggest stars. Now talk about sensitive. I have a bad cold, ladies and
I'm
gentlemen.
not making you cry.
You're making me snivel, not snivel. But everybody. I remember years and years ago interviewing Jack Benny, who was one of the greatest stars we've had. And he was talking about a bad review he got in Variety, the show business newspaper. And I thought, this is a man who is a huge star. What does he remember? The one bad review. But I know this, nobody will believe me. I do not read if I get bad reviews. I don't. You will remember that. It's debilitating, hurts your feelings. Why bother? And it's not that I live in a world where I know that I'm perfect, but I don't go out of my way to be hurt.
How many people can say they're at the top of their professional game at nearly 70? Yet when Barbara Walters broke into television in the 1950s, she says she just wanted a job. Her detractors fault her journalism, and it's true. She did not come from the newspaper or wire service background of her colleagues. Her critics also say she's become as much of a celebrity as those entertainers she interviews, and that's probably true, too. But she created what's now known in journalism as the big interview, from Anwar Sadat to Katharine Hepburn to Monica Lewinsky. And her news interviews usually generate news because the figures tell Barbara Walters something we've never heard before. There's no one on the air today with her versatility or her clout. When we come back, how it all began.
Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters is brought to you by the Georgia Lottery Corporation, contributing more than $3 billion to education. And by Cadillac, Seville STS with all the power and technology of the North Star system. It's what's next.
So here we are, my whole...
Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters continues.
During her 15-year career at NBC, Barbara Walters worked behind the scenes as a writer and producer.
First of all, every day I had to go and look at fashion shows.
Then she refashioned the Today Show girls role to fit her own aspirations to report and anchor. Barbara earned a reputation as a hard worker, pushing to get out of the studio and into the field. At the same time, she hosted a daily talk show. Never mind that she was a feature reporter or interviewer who sometimes appeared in commercials on the morning show. At the time, she was one of the few women even on TV news. And when she left, Barbara was the show's co-anchor. By 1974, the Today Girl was called television's most recognizable woman. And Newsweek magazine said she was the highest paid at $400,000 a year. She made more than CBS's Walter Cronkite. 2 years later, ABC TV thought Barbara could help its struggling news division. Execs offered her a chance to trade her early morning show for what was considered the most prestigious slot in television news. Barbara would join veteran newsman Harry Reasoner, and they'd co-anchor the network's nightly newscast.
Barbara Walters.
Her decision made the front page of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Chicago Tribune. Not only was she going to be the first woman at a network anchor desk, but she was going to get $1 million to do it. More than anyone else, more than her male competitors, including her resistant partner.
In my case, all those years ago, it was a man who really didn't want a partner, and he certainly didn't want a woman. And there was so much bad press. I mean, how dare I come in and even presume?
Her journalism credentials and her salary were challenged. The president of CBS News was quoted as saying, "Is Barbara a journalist or is she Cher?" Connie Chung was quoted as saying, "Barbara Walters is an interviewer, a talk show hostess. She does specials, not reporting." Newsweek reported, Walter Cronkite said he experienced the sickening sensation that we were all going under, that all of our efforts to hold network television news aloof from show business had failed.
Probably if I had known how terribly hard it was, I would not have done it. But that doesn't mean that young women today shouldn't. And they should fight for those positions, and they should complain if somebody is treating them poorly. I didn't. It was a different time. And they should just do their homework and do their job and become so good that no one can get rid of them.
Did Harry Reasoner ever apologize to you?
After Harry Reasoner went back to CBS, he wrote a book. And I did the first interview with him in the book. And I realized later that Harry himself was going through a lot of stuff. It's not Harry's way to apologize, but what he did say was it was never you. I mean, it was never personal.
While the nation celebrated its bicentennial, Barbara remembers 1976 as one of the worst years of her life, and I can relate to that. I came here in 1975, but in January of '76, I became the first woman anchor on the 6 o'clock news in Atlanta. Some of the viewers didn't like it, but luckily I had an anchorman who was easy to work with, John Pruitt. Barbara was not so lucky. She and Harry Reasoner never clicked on the anchor desk. Viewers seldom watched the news the mismatched couple offered. The half-hour format just didn't lend itself to her skills. And the criticism, it continued. Harry Reasoner left, and Barbara kind of floundered.
The good thing about this, and I say this to women and men, is there will come that time in your life when you will be fired or when something will happen and you think it's the end. And for me, it was the beginning of a whole new career because I had to work my way back.
Barbara attacked her new career, teaming her interviewing skills with a relentlessness that netted her the first ever joint interview with Egypt's Anwar Sadat and Israel's Menachem Begin.
This is what people are going to be asking of you.
Politics can't be conducted like this.
I have to keep trying.
From ABC News.
In 1984, at 2020 News Magazine, she found a weekly home for her energy and skills.
You and I cannot get AIDS by kissing or cleaning this baby. Yet so great is the fear these days that many people will be concerned that I am even holding this baby.
She often brought viewers the first.
Do you have AIDS?
Or a different look at people in the news.
When I first was coming out of, consciousness. And you have the thought, maybe it's not worth everybody's trouble.
Ms. Beha,
Yes.
Things going well with you sexually?
Sex. Let me see if I remember.
And then at 60-something, she created a daily talk show called The View.
When I'm on 2020, like when you do the news, we have to have a certain demeanor. You're serious, you're authoritative. But when I do The View, I can play, I can laugh. Sometimes it's too personal, but, it's fun.
Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters will return. Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters continues.
Barbara Walters' ease around the rich and famous is partly a result of her childhood. She was the daughter of Lou Walters, who owned lavish big city clubs. Lou also gambled, and with the capriciousness of club life, it's not hard to believe that he won and lost fortunes. When her father went bankrupt, Barbara Walters became the breadwinner for Lou, Mother Dina, and older sister Jackie, who was mildly retarded. At the same time, Barbara's first marriage was crumbling.
You've been married 3 times, married and divorced 3 times.
Well, no, the first time, technically, it was annulled. I don't know what difference it makes, but it made my father feel better that it wasn't on the record. So.
She then married theater producer Lee Gruber in 1961. Together, they adopted a baby girl they called Jackie. The couple divorced 15 years later. In 1986, she married TV executive Merv Adelson. They divorced 6 years later, and now she's single.
How much do you think your career had to do with the demise of the marriage?
The easiest thing is to say not at all, but the truth is, sure, it must have. I do know that I could get divorced because I knew that I could support myself. That made a big difference. It wasn't going to be the end of my life. I didn't have to stay married.
Do you think you'll ever remarry?
Nope.
Why not?
Oh, my life is very good now, and my baby is 30 years old, and she's married, and I have a lot of friends, and I don't have any desire to remarry.
What did your daughter feel about your career? My daughter doesn't want to go anywhere near what I do.
No, mine. No, mine. And I think that's a good thing. I wouldn't have objected if she'd wanted to do something in the business, if she wanted to. I think being a celebrity in that sense bothered her because she felt that when she met people and they knew she was Barbara Walters' daughter, that they treated her differently. They either expected her to be very snobby, or they should see me wiping my nose with my hands and they would know that Mummy is not too snobby, right? Or they would expect her, they would like her only because she was my daughter. Many women of my generation who were working the way I did and traveling so much did not have children or have one child. And I'm just so glad I have her. Wish I'd had more.
Do you think you'll be enjoying being a grandma? Are you pushing that?
She doesn't seem to want to have children right now. She's still in school. So I just got a dog. It's not exactly the same, but it's something to hold and cuddle. And I'd love to be a grandmother. I love babies.
If she gets her wish, Barbara's grandchild may be surprised about what Grandmother Walters can and cannot do.
I don't know how to drive. I'm afraid to drive. I do no sports. I can swim a little. I'm not a very good cook. I mean, I can tell you all the things I can't do. My daughter once, and I'm talking a lot about my daughter, but we're talking about my personal life. I heard her on the phone one day, and she said, my mommy doesn't drive, and my mommy burnt the meatloaf. I think the only thing my mommy can do is television. But I'm a good friend, and I can write, and I can edit. I can't make the meatloaf. I don't know. There's a lot of things I can't do.
I'd rather have you this way. Don't worry about the meatloaf. You can get carry out. You can get carry out.
I'd be no good at a country club. I don't play golf. I don't play cards. Oh, this is very depressing.
And now, Barbara Walters.
Good evening.
But what Barbara Walters does best is make television. And she's been doing it for almost 40 years. It's hard to believe she's close to 70.
I got a few years to go. But it's, closer to 70 than 60. Much closer to 70 than 30 or 40.
What do you feel about aging on the air?
Well, I'm delighted that I'm still on the air. I mean, I don't say that facetiously because, the men stay on. And Hugh is very open about his age. I think he's 76. Mike Wallace is 80. I don't think I'm going to be on the air at that age. So I'm glad. Let me, if I can pave the way, let me pave the way for all of those women in their 40s and 50s. I don't think if I were an actress, I would be, playing character roles. But I think on the news, people accept us. They know me. I have very good lighting. That helps.
Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters will return.
Yes, she is.
Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters continues.
Now you are wealthy, but...
Well, yeah, I do okay. I'm not complaining, but there's rich and there's rich. I'll never be rich. I'm rich. Okay.
But when you've been poor...
You never forget it.
You never forget it. So, does Barbara Walters, when she leaves the hotel, take all of the toiletries with her?
Yes. How did you know?
I knew it.
Yes, no matter what, I take all the toiletries. Isn't that terrible? Yes, I do. I take the soap. If it doesn't have the name on it, I use it for guest soap. Yeah.
What else do you do
that's
that is
all
a throwback?
Take. That's all I take.
I know, but what else do you do that's kind of a throwback?
Seriously, one of the greatest things for me now is to know that I have security and to know that when I don't want to work, I will be okay. And you don't have to be rich, rich, rich. It's just a wonderful feeling to feel secure, and I wish everybody could.
Ms. Walters, how do you want to be remembered? You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. You knew it. You knew the questions before I asked them.
How do I want to be? All these questions I ask people, I never know what to say. I'd like to be remembered as a good journalist. I think those of us who aren't will be. I probably won't be described that way. Who knows? I don't want to be remembered as somebody who made people cry. I guarantee you it's going to say that. And it's going to say she asked somebody what kind of a tree they wanted to be, which I said once to Katharine Hepburn when she said, I'm like an old tree. I will read that in my obituary.
Barbara says she got a bad rap on the now infamous "What kind of tree are you?" question. Take a look at her interview with actress Katharine Hepburn and decide for yourself whether or not she earned it.
I'm a very strong, become a sort of, thing.
What?
I don't know what, sort
you
of tree or something. Yes, well, I mean, it's a sort of, no, and that's something the people have created.
What kind of a tree are you, if you think you're a tree now?
I hope I'm not an elm with Dutch elm disease. I don't know, because then I'm withering.
A good journalist, a good mother, and a loving friend. And because I can never make up my mind, on my tombstone, because in big things I can make up my mind. In little things, impossible. I redo. And my tombstone is going to say, on the other hand, maybe I should have lived.
Monica Kaufman Close-Ups with Barbara Walters is brought to you by the Georgia Lottery Corporation, contributing more than $3 billion to education. And by Cadillac, Seville STS with all the power and technology of the North Star system. It's what's next.